Hi, Michael. Hey, welcome back to Ace Dad Advice, and we're back with another questions video comprised of questions that you sent in. And the questions we have in this video are really great ones, really terrific conversation starters, so I am ready to dive right in. First question is, how do you think your experience as an older ace person varies from the experience of a younger ace person? And out of curiosity, do people still try to tell you your asexuality is a phase? Well, no, people don't think my asexuality is a phase because I think I am an old. The comments that I get about my asexuality are much harsher and meaner than that. Generally, it's about being broken or having some sort of weird ulterior motive, or other kind of just terrible aphobic comments are kind of directed my way about my asexuality and why I am ace. It's maybe a thing I envy about young people. Like, I'd rather just people think it's a phase than some of the terrible things that they say to me. But, you know, we are where we are. So how do I think my experience as an older ace person is different from a younger ace person? I can't speak for every older ace because I'm sure we all come to asexuality differently. But I can say for me, what I think is unique is it took me a long time to get here. I didn't come out as asexual until I was 42 years old. So I spent the majority of my adult life thinking that I was like a broken gay person, not an asexual person. You know, when I came out in the mid-90s, I came out as gay, and I came out as gay because that was the language that I had. It was the language that was available to me, that I could find, that I could connect to, and it was the closest to what I was living. Even though I knew then it wasn't quite right. I knew that that language sort of described me, but didn't totally describe me. So I lived my adult life mostly. I lived all of my major life relationships up until the ones I'm in currently, believing that I was a broken version of something instead of the thing I actually am, which is asexual. I hear that story a lot from other people who are my age or older who are asexual, living a considerable part of time not knowing that you're ace and sort of living with what that does to you. I think younger ace people are very lucky to have access to the information, like to have access to videos like this, to all the videos on YouTube, to have Avon exist and their website, and have asexuality be something that you can find on the other end of a Google search. That wasn't true for me, and I know that wasn't true for a lot of older ace folks as well. So we experience asexuality through this interesting lens of living it in the present, but having a considerable chunk of experience without it, and dealing with the ramifications of that as we piece together this present self of ours. Now, one thing I will say about being an older ace person that is pretty awesome, I get to assume a role like this. I get to assume that kind of mentor elder role in a community, which is such an important role in communities. You know, mentors and elders are the people who demonstrate that a future is possible for the younger people in a community. They carry the history, they carry lived experience, and they show that the future is a real thing that you can have. Like, as a young person, you get to become this as you get older. And that's a really important thing in any community, especially in marginalized communities. So that is a facet of being an older ace person that I very much appreciate. And it's a responsibility and a role that I embrace and take very seriously. So here is the second question. I know from your boundaries video that it's important not to backtrack on boundaries, but let's say at some point in the past, someone did choose to sacrifice their own boundaries in order to try to make a relationship work that wasn't really compatible. What advice do you have on coming to terms with that kind of past experience? This is a really wonderful question, and thank you so much for asking it. Yes, In another video about navigating relationships, I talk about the importance of establishing your boundaries, knowing what they are, and holding on to them. But I can tell you that's a very hard thing to do. And a lot of times in relationships, when we feel really strong emotional connections to someone and really strong emotional connections to making a relationship work, we put ourselves in situations where we're willing to backtrack on our boundaries because in that emotional state, we think, well, my boundary, it's flexible so the relationship can survive. That is a problematic way to go about things. It doesn't help you. It doesn't really help your relationship grow from an authentic and true place. So holding on to your boundaries, super, super important. But I've been in relationships where I have backtracked on my boundaries because I'm a human person, and we can't. We can have great advice, but we can't always live our great advice all the time because we're fallible and we're people. How do you deal with that? You have to have grace with yourself. And this isn't just true for boundaries. This is true for all of this identity journey experience. Have grace with yourself. Recognize that you are an imperfect person. You are an imperfect person like everyone else on the planet is an imperfect person. And even with the greatest of intentions and the best of educations and the best plans and preparations, we are going to sometimes do things that are against our best interest, and we are going to sometimes do things that are the wrong move to make. Be kind to yourself. Understand that making mistakes is just something that happens, and take that experience, respect it, acknowledge it, and move forward knowing that you can do better next time. In the next relationship, maybe you won't make that same mistake. You will try very hard not to make that same mistake. In the next relationship, you will honor that boundary more. In that next relationship, you will be clearer about your boundaries. Don't punish the past version of you for making a mistake. Just acknowledge them, carry them with you into the future, and make better choices as you move forward. There was another second question here that I want to address. This person also wrote in and asked, do you have any tips on finding ace-friendly therapists? That is a tricky area. There are a lot of therapists who will say they are LGBTQ plus friendly, but that doesn't necessarily mean that they will be conversant in all things LGBTQ plus, especially ACE issues. The best thing you can do is ask questions. When you're engaging with a therapist for the first time, or really any time during your sessions with a therapist, it's okay to ask questions. It's okay to pursue lines of thought, getting them to talk about how they feel about certain things. Remember, a therapist works for you. A therapist is there to help you. And if you discover through engaging with them that where they're coming from is harmful to you or is just simply not very helpful, it's okay to say, well, this relationship isn't going to work and I need to find another one. I lucked out because I found a really wonderful ACE-friendly therapist kind of right off the bat, but I know that isn't the case for everyone. It may be a little hit and miss, and you may have to try a couple of therapists before you find the right one. Just ask questions and know that you have the right to ask those questions. Our last question for this video: what does coming out actually mean to those you come out to but won't have any kind of sexual relationship with? Why does coming out as asexual matter? I got this question in a lot of different forms, and it basically boils down to the question of why is it important for us to come out as asexual? What does that do for anyone, really? What business is it of anyone's? And I would first say that I agree with you to some extent. Coming out is a process that we do for ourselves. It's not for other people, it's for us. Coming out is a process for us to acknowledge our experience and acknowledge who we are, and if we want to, share that knowledge with the people that we interact with or the people that we care about. That process is entirely about you. It doesn't matter what other people think of your identity. It doesn't matter what other people think about your process. Coming out should be about you. So why does that matter? Why do we even do it? What does it mean to anybody other than people we're in close relationship with? Well, one of the things I think it means is visibility. It's very important as a person in the world who is ace to be out, because you then become someone that another person can look at and see that being ace is okay. You become a person in the world that someone who is maybe struggling or questioning their sexual identity can look at and say like, oh, hey, that's me. That's like me. That person is okay, and I guess I can be okay too. That old adage, you can't be it unless you see it. And so a lot of people come out because being seen and being visible provides that help for other people, and that matters to them, and it's important. I also think there is a great value and importance in just simply occupying your space out loud in the world. We are told all the time that we should just keep it to ourselves. That your personal life is your personal business and nobody else should know about it. When we live in a world where people who are not queer, people who are not ace, people who are considered the cultural norm, get to sort of live their existence openly all the time without question. So there is, to me, a great value in saying, no, you know what? The space that I occupy as an asexual person is mine. The space that I occupy as an asexual person in this world is valid. And I'm going to occupy that space visibly and joyfully and with a lot of pride. I know that that's not important to everyone, but for those of us that it is important to, it's worth celebrating. It's a good thing for people. It's nice to model that kind of owning your space for others. There's value to it. And I think that leads me to sort of this final idea about why coming out matters. Coming out matters to the people who want to come out. Coming out matters to the people for whom being visible or being public about their identities matters. It matters to them. And if it does matter to them, that should be okay. We all live our lives in our own way. We find the path that works for us. Maybe coming out doesn't work for you. Maybe it's not your particular path. But that doesn't mean that the other path, the being out visibly path, is wrong for other people or is unnecessary or doesn't make sense. It just doesn't make sense for you. And for the people that it does make sense to, it's a transformative thing. Being an out ace person has sincerely transformed my whole life. It has made my relationships better. It's made my relationship to myself a lot better. And it has in turn become a thing that is helping other people. So for me, personally, coming out matters a lot. It mattered a lot. We should embrace the fact that everyone is going to deal with their identity in their own way and follow their own path to who they are. And embracing that there are different ways to do that. Embracing that there are different ways to be ace. There's ways to be ace privately, there are ways to be ace publicly. And both of those paths are valid and useful in the world. That's the right way for us to think about our community and the people in it. So there are more videos on the way with your questions. If you have a question that you would like answered in one of these videos, you can just email me at acedadadvice@gmail.com and I will get to your question as soon as I can in a video. Thanks a lot, and thank you for supporting the channel. Bye.